Good afternoon to you. Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion for the last day of July 2021. And really, the East Pacific is where we're going to focus our attention right now because, as you know, the Atlantic Basin is still nice and quiet from Africa through the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, the subtropics. It's all nice and quiet right now. And I don't see that changing anytime soon, so we'll focus on what's happening in the Eastern Pacific for now. First, let's take a look at this. I thought this was interesting, the upper ocean heat content map from the NOAA AOML site. And it's pretty robust throughout the deep tropics here. Anywhere that you see this that I'm outlining in white is fairly sufficient upper oceanic heat content. In other words, the water is not just warm at the surface, but it extends fairly deep down in some cases, especially down here in the Caribbean Sea, maybe 200 to 300 meters deep, where that 80-degree line reaches what we call the isotherm. It extends deep into the water, not just at the ocean's surface. So plenty of upper ocean heat content to work with, especially. And this is important out here in the main development region. A lot has been made over the past few weeks of how the different sea surface temperature anomaly maps are shaping up. But at the end of the day, again, you got to just open up the window and see what's going on out there. And there's plenty of energy available, especially once you get past about 40 degrees of longitude here, south of about 20. Everything's warm enough to sustain fairly powerful hurricanes when the time comes, so there's no lack of energy for sure. Nothing to take advantage of it right now, though. That's the good news. Nothing over the next 24 hours, and certainly nothing over the next 120 hours if my internet will ever cooperate. Maybe it's the Hurricane Center site. Maybe everybody's at home watching stuff and hogging all my AT&T fiber. Who knows? Next 5 days, nice and quiet as well. It finally popped up. In the Eastern Pacific, we have TD number 9E. E is for Eastern Pacific. There's Tropical Storm Hilda, well on its way to becoming a hurricane, and this looks like it's going to try to develop. And I think eventually we're going to see something else form in this area. And so this entire region is very favorable right now. And once that dies down, and it will, the Atlantic will begin to take over, but that's going to take 2 or 3 weeks. And then we will be very busy tracking stuff in the Atlantic. This Eastern Pacific sort of rising cell, as it's called, this little pocket of rising motion and divergence, very little shear out there overall. That'll eventually kind of wane away, and a big rising branch is going to set up over the Atlantic, the tropical Atlantic, spread out from Africa out to the west, and make the tropical Atlantic and Caribbean much more favorable. But it's got a ways to go, which is fine. We all have plenty to do, I'm sure, without having to worry about hurricanes right now. And then if you're curious, the Eastern Pacific out to the Central Pacific, here's Hawaii, and there's TD number 9E, and it could develop and then eventually move into the vicinity of the Hawaiian Islands, but it'll turn north before it ever gets there. So no worries at all. That's the bottom line for Hawaii. None of these systems should make it out your way, and if they do, there would be rain events, which is substantial, but I wouldn't even worry about it right now at all. All right, so here's TD number 9E. I'll just put a 9 there. Here's an H for Hilda, and this is another system that's trying to develop, and then there's going to be more energy coming together here, and it'll stay active in that region for the next couple of weeks. As I mentioned, everything out in the tropical Atlantic through the Caribbean is nice and quiet right now, and it's going to stay that way. No disturbances seen, and we don't have to worry about it. As we end July and get into August, everything in the south here is toasty. A front trying to come south could have some severe weather today and tomorrow, mainly tomorrow. I think there's like a slight risk for parts of the mid-Atlantic states down into the Carolinas tomorrow. I will be flying to Arizona, so I won't be here for that, and I'll talk about that more on Monday, what I will be doing out in Arizona. So, nice and quiet in the tropics. If we look at the GFS here for our Pacific systems, let's use a color that shows up, shall we? So here's TD number 9E. There's Hilda. This is the next system, and then more energy is going to try to coalesce there, put this into motion, and watch how these move along. No threats to Mexico. Hilda looks like it could ramp up into a fairly solid hurricane, and then another system gets going out about the 5 to 6 day time frame. That is right there, closer to Central America. Terrible arrow drawing today. That's okay. But this is way on out towards a week in time. We'll just see how that plays out. Looks like it could be pretty strong too, but we're getting far out into the time frame. It may not even develop. Look how it comes off of Central America. That is kind of interesting. So we'll see. Sometimes the GFS gets kind of crazy with these. Backing it up a bit, did you notice the kind of Fujiwara effect that happens with these two? Tropical cyclones do not sort of devour each other. Oftentimes people mention that when they see two of them close together in the Atlantic. Will one absorb the energy of the other and become a super hurricane? You know, this isn't science fiction. It doesn't work that way. They both basically impede each other, and then they turn around each other in through a common center, if you will. It's called the Fujiwara effect. Fuji, F-U-J-I-W-A-R-A, Fujiwara. Google it. Check it out. It's a pretty interesting thing. And these two systems look like they may try to do that. See, they interact with each other just a little bit right there. Could be interesting to see these kind of pivoting around each other, and then off they go. That's kind of silly looking, isn't it? But it does happen. Nature can be quite interesting sometimes if it's not bothering us, I guess. And with these being way out in the open ocean, they won't be of any concern. Meanwhile, in the Atlantic, big old subtropical ridge outlined here, trough of low pressure way up in Canada, and kind of extending back towards the lower 48 here with this backdoor cold front that's going to come down. That will give us the severe weather threat tomorrow through the Chesapeake and down into eastern North Carolina. But moving out into time, very large piece of energy does move off Africa. It looks like a big bubble that just gets sort of spat out into the Atlantic from the African easterly jet that sits out there, part of that monsoon trough pattern. But nothing becomes of it, just not enough of an impetus to get it going. Certainly the water temperatures are warm enough, but it's still kind of dry. A lot of sinking air instead of rising, moist, shearless, if that's a word, air, so to speak. And then way out at about 6 days, looks like a system tries to get going. See it right there? Right off the coast of Africa at days 4, 5, and 6. Maybe day 7, we'll see. And tries to do something, but let's go back. We'll see. It starts at about hour 96 coming off Africa, short-lived through the Cabo Verde Islands, and then goes on into the open Atlantic and really doesn't do much. We're out at 10 days now, well into August 10th. Nothing out there, but it's going to take another 10 days past this point, I think, and then we will see things start to change, and when they do so, it'll be quite dramatic. I do believe it's coming. There's no reason to doubt it, so I hope you guys are ready. Hey, this is neat. Like I said, I'm going to the desert Southwest. We have a camera out there all the time over in Pahrump, Nevada. I know this is low res because it's coming off of Twitter. But we have a camera in Pahrump, and where is Pahrump? It's about 75 miles west of Las Vegas. Las Vegas would be over here on the other side of these mountains. And the camera captured a really neat phenomenon yesterday. First of all, coming up here in about 8 seconds, watch right here. You're going to see a dust devil briefly appear. Get ready for it. Here it comes. And where is it? There it is. See, it was very fast. Let's rewind it a little bit and I'll show you. It's about the 32-second mark. See it? It's right there. Anyway, caught a dust devil, and then the heavens opened up and it rained like the dickens out there. You'll see that coming in now. Nice rain burst. It looks like the rain is just thrown to the ground. Obviously, this is time-lapse. This is sped up. There it is right there. Nice rain burst. Very heavy rain in the Pahrump area. There's more of it. Ode to that monsoon. Probably one of the strongest monsoons that we've seen out there in maybe 15 or 20 years, I was reading. That's pretty significant. It's starting to wane away just a little bit, but it should kind of come back towards the end of next week, which is a good thing because I'm going to be out there kind of researching that, talking to some people about that, the drought situation, and how tropical cyclones impact the area coming from the eastern Pacific. Unless you live out there, most people really don't know about that, but I was out there recently, well, fairly recently, 3 years ago now, almost, for Hurricane Rosa when it came up into the southwest U.S., and it created some flooding issues in that area. They do happen, and I think it's really fascinating because it helps us speed up geologic time. So I'm going to be out there for several days starting tomorrow and I will do my updates from out there. Nothing tomorrow, though. Tomorrow, August 1st, flight day, traveling, so no... I'll do my morning podcast, the Hurricane Season, the podcast. That's just an audio. I take the microphone here and I speak into it, and it's easy, 2.5, 3 minutes, and I'm done. These take longer, these updates here, than I do with graphics and whatever. So we'll take tomorrow off, and there's not much to talk about outside of the Pacific anyway. But Monday, since I will be 3 hours to the west, if I get up and put an update together around 9 a.m. Phoenix time, then you guys will see it around noon or so Eastern, and it works out pretty good because I'll have all the model data in and the sea surface temperature stuff that I talk about. So yeah, we'll do it again on Monday. Does that sound good? All right. Have yourselves a great rest. It's like reading cue cards. Just slow down, Mark. Have yourselves a great rest of your Saturday. As always, thanks for tuning in and listening to me. I do appreciate it. I am Mark Sudduth, learning how to talk again. I'll talk to you some more, hopefully, from the desert Southwest on Monday.